Good afternoon, all, and today's video is about a common mistake that leads to a partial misdiagnosis and misconception, misunderstanding of the severity of the female presentation of autism when it's a neurotypical outsider looking in. And it could be a neurotypical doctor, a neurotypical autism researcher, a neurotypical autism doctor, or a state or federal, like Florida state court personnel, or an ADA coordinator, or for an agency, state or federal. And so let's get to it. So one of the diagnostic criteria that has remained in the DSM for autism spectrum disorders for autism that continues in the DSM-5 TR are repetitive behaviors. And so as a young autistic girl who was diagnosed and my parents never told me about it, leading me to go through my younger life as an undiagnosed autistic girl, and now I'm a late diagnosed autistic woman because I was diagnosed again with autism in 2009 by Dr. Michael Hoffman, MD, on the basis of the ADIR gold standard autism test. And so what can a repetitive behavior in a young autistic girl look like? Now, mind you, I was born in 1956. So we're not talking about autistic children today in the age of cell phones and AI, computers, and all of that. We're talking about repetitive behaviors seen in young females, young girls who were born in the mid-1950s, and this is a repetitive behavior I was still engaging in 1972. That is, as I was entering my 12th grade year, 1972 to 1973, just before my high school graduation. And this is a picture of my bedroom here in 1972, in the fall of 1972. And what we have circled here is my record player that was in my room. And it's got an arrow pointing at the record player. What did I do? I spent a lot of time after school in my room, basically all my hours when I was not in school and when I was not riding horses, which are my special interest. It has been my lifelong special interest. All the rest of my time I spent by myself in my bedroom. And what did I do? Well, I always knew I was different. I was always asked, what's wrong with you? I was always told I was weird and everything I did was bad because it wasn't what I was supposed to do. And because I didn't fit in with all of the other neurotypical people my age, my classmates, the other girls in my high school. So one of the things that I did to try to fit in was I would ask my father to buy me records. And I didn't ask for albums, mainly. I asked for singles. And the singles I asked for were the ones each week that were the most popular, with the most popular neurotypical girls that they all had and they all listened to fit in. So my father would buy me these single records and I would put them on my record player. My record player here, and I would set the record player arm so that the records kept playing over and over and over and over again. And I would listen to these records 200, 300 times a day while I was alone in my bedroom. Now, an outside neurotypical looking in would say, oh, that's repetitive. Why is she doing that? An autism and neurotypical autism researcher or neurotypical autism doctor or a neurotypical ADA coordinator for a state and federal agency would look at that and say, that might be a repetitive behavior of the female presentation of autism. Okay, so far so good. You spotted an autism indicator. Yay! Yay for you! But now comes the problem. What does that repetitive behavior mean? What does it tell you about my autism? Well, because of some of the stereotypes that have been spread around by the media, like the stereotype of Rain Man, the stereotype of musical savants, the most likely neurotypical thing that would come to mind for the outsider neurotypical looking in on my autism would be, oh, she's playing the records over and over again, the repetitive behavior, because she is a musical savant, an autistic musical savant. Well, no, that's wrong. You got it wrong. I'm not a musical savant. In fact, I can't even sing because even my voice and intonation is so off-key, it irritates most neurotypical people, and I can't hit any kind of notes or anything like that with my voice, with music. No. Another possibility where this particular female presentation of autism, repetitive behavior, can be misunderstood is that when I played the same record over and over and over again, 200 to 300 times a day, that it might mean it's a special interest. Well, no. No. Musical records were never a special interest of mine. That's not what it means. So, let's continue. Now, what it means, and this is from an diagnosed autistic female from the inside looking out and explaining repetitive behavior. playing the same record over and over and over and over again 200 or 300 times a day, every day of the week, 4 months, is because it tells you what my autism severity level was. So now you have to understand that the most core feature of an autism spectrum disorder is that at its core, it's a communication disability. That means communication. That means that as an autistic girl in 1972, in my 1972 to 73 high school year, just in 12th grade, just before graduation, I had a very severe communication disability. An autistic communication disability. I couldn't use communication in the way a neurotypical person could. Not at all. And this still continues in my life. I have just been lucky to be able to get the words out. I can't make any nuances to that at all, other than just getting the literal words out. We're talking about me as a late teenager, a young female autistic girl in my 12th grade year in 1972, of my 1972 to 73 12th grade high school year, before my 1973 graduation from high school. That at this time in my life, I could only get the literal words out if I could do that. So why did I listen to single records that were the popular ones the neurotypical girls all got and listened to try to fit in? And why did I listen to them 200 or 300 times a day, over and over and over again on my record player while I was by myself in my bedroom? The reason is because as a young child, I did not have functional communication. I was functionally nonverbal in my ability to communicate my wants, my needs, and my thoughts to others. In other words, it tells you I was level 3 in severity. And here I am playing the popular neurotypical girl fit in singles records over and over 200 to 300 times a day. Why? Because I was trying to understand the words that were being said and how those words were being used in sentences and what they were saying over and over to try to acquire more communication and speech, which I did not have, to try to be more neurotypically functional in my communication so I could mask to fit in when I opened my mouth and talked. And what it tells you is that I was still level 3 in 1972-73 in my 12th grade senior year of high school before I graduated from high school in 1973. And to this day, I cannot understand the words that are used in any musical song, any singles song, on songs on albums. If I hear musicians playing and singing, unless I have them written down in front of me, I don't know what they're saying, and I cannot understand it. And so this is a really, really big deal. It leads to massive misunderstandings of me. And I just want to say that this video should educate neurotypical doctors, neurotypical autism doctors, neurotypical autism researchers, ADA coordinators for state and federal courts, bar examiners, and ADA coordinators for state and federal agencies about the core communication disability of the female presentation of autism spectrum disorders, and what you might look for to understand the severity level of an autistic female who has been late diagnosed. I just want to say in closing that my next video is a very important one, because my next video is going to address whether or not law school cures autism. So stay tuned. If you like my videos, please hit the notification bell and the subscribe button, and you'll be notified of my future videos. And thank you for watching.